post-employment, leveraging experience as independent consultant. Now, you can, if you spend 10, 15 years in banking and you're retiring and you're asking yourself, okay, so, it's not wise and it's not even safe if you have spent a lot of time in a unit, in an organization, and then you're coming out and you're doing something, you'll be taking a lot of risk. Do you understand what I mean? Because you are going to have to learn from beginning. But if you are doing something related to what you have done for many years, you are coming in with experience that help you in that thing you want to do when you're out there trying to do stuff for yourself. Experience as independent consultant, freelance trade specialist, supply chain optimization specialist, trainer and educator. So what I do is training. And I've done this for about 15 years. And I was doing it even as a staff in the bank, training our colleagues. Why? Because, I like training, and I fell in love with trade, and I combined both. So you can find a way to combine both. But the first question is, someone said everybody performs to install capacity. Everybody performs to install capacity. I can only do to the extent of what I know. I can only do whenever there's a problem in the office and we are trying to think, how do we solve the problem? When you think, you query your database. When the database is shallow, the quality of thought will be poor. The way the database will be deep is how much you have learned. And that's why sometimes it's funny when someone thinks that how will I be spending my money to develop myself to help the bank? You're not helping the bank, you're helping yourself. You're helping yourself. Because at the end of the day, whatever you become, whenever it is you live, becomes part of you. When you think, anytime there's a challenge and you're thinking and you can't find, and you see someone that's always having, you're always having something, you always have an idea. It's because you're able to think. The raw material for thinking is information. If I don't have that information, I don't have it. There's nothing you can do about it. Because when you think, you query your database. The database is shallow, the quality of thought will be poor. So, education, author and blogger. And you know what that means today. Venture into entrepreneurship. I'm an exporter. I know a banker who, after doing banking for many years, retired, and he went into importation. And he said, how did he even stumble into it? He said, he noticed the wife is always complaining about zip. The wife only complaining about zip for the dress. And he decided to go and be importing zip from China. He went into China, but because he had a good understanding of what? Trade. So it was easier to manage that process. Today, that's what he does. And he's supplying people here on the island. But he was in banking for many years. Retired from banking, but he was able to learn all this. So it became a lot easier to be able to manage that process because he has handled from end from beginning to the end. He has done it for many customers. But now he's able to do it for himself. Entrepreneurship, import-export business owner, niche trade facilitation and service provider, e-commerce business and international focus, supply chain technology and solution provider. Then, shifting focus and impact. Trade policy advisor. There are a number of organizations, for example, UN, WTO, African Development Bank. There are a number of multilateral organizations also that need those skills. But now, not just in financing, but rather at the level of policy. Trade policy advisor. International business development. Sustainability and ethical sourcing. This is an emerging area. In fact, there's some emerging area of trade I want to mention. I don't want to forget it. Number one, letter of credit is becoming a nuisance to trade transactions. Did you hear what I said? Letter of credit is becoming what? A nuisance. You know why it's a nuisance? Letter of credit started in the Renaissance. For over 300 years ago. When the world was very slow. You know our world is very fast now, right? Very slow. But we're still using it. And it's slowing down businesses. How does it slow down businesses? Through discrepancies. You know what I mean, right? According to the National Chamber of Commerce, out of every 10 documents presented, 7 are discrepant. Globally, you can imagine discrepancy in Nigeria. You can imagine Nigeria. Globally. So there's always issue that businesses have that are settled by ICC arbitration in Paris because of discrepancies. I feel it's discrepancy. You think it's not discrepancy. Back and forth, we drag ourselves to ICC court to arbitrate. Why? Because they are the one that drafted the rules. Letter of credit becoming nuisance. Now, global trade is 33 trillion. Trade in goods, 24 trillion. Guess what percentage of that transaction is letter of credit? Out of the 24 trillion, what percentage do you think letter of credit? I will tell you. So they tell us. No, it's more than 3 or 4%. Not up to 17. About 9%. 9%. 85% of global trade is on open account. It's on open account, right? It's an open account, even though we don't allow it in import Nigeria. But do you know what? Most of the bill for collection you are dealing with, a number of them also. Now, so what happened is this. In the bid to protect themselves, because open account is definitely risky. So businesses at the back end, they have guarantee and standbys. So if there are two instruments, I would strongly recommend you master as a trade person who is thinking of future in trade. Think of what? Demand guarantee and standby letter of credit. Demand guarantee and standby letter of credit. Demand guarantee and standby letter of credit. Demand guarantee and standby. You need letter of credit, because I see using it. But going into the future, people are dumping letter of credit. Seriously. Why? It's becoming a nuisance because of the delay it's causing. And people want to have fast transaction yet secure. Fast transaction yet secure. Fast because they can use open accounts, secure because they can use guarantee and standby. Another area of interest, sustainability and ethical sourcing. Sustainability and ethical sourcing. You know, each time I talk about the fact that letter of credit declining, someone will tell me, Daily, but we do a letter of credit in our bank. And then I ask, what is the Africa contribution to global trade? Not Nigeria, Africa. Before you conclude, Africa. African contribution to global trade is 2.5%. 2.5%. Global trade, EU contribution is about 30%. That intra-EU trade is about 70%. Intra-EU. And that makes EU to contribute how many percent? About 30. Intra-African trade is about 15%. 16, 17%. That's why we have the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. How many of you are familiar with that agreement? Are you serious? AFCFTA. 1, 2. Oh, wow. You need to know about it, please. Because this African Global Bank, I hope you know. I hope you know. You have branches everywhere, many places in Africa. So you have an advantage on AFCFTA in Africa. You have an advantage because you are in different African countries. And the goal of AFCFTA is to make Africa do business together. So your understanding of AFCFTA is extremely important to be able to drive that. Now, the reason for AFCFTA is to deepen international inter-African trade. Currently, inter-African trade is extremely low, extremely low, extremely low. But the goal is to increase it by ensuring we do trade together. So there are about 54 countries have signed an agreement, over 40 have ratified. Nigeria started trading actually. Other countries have started trading. Only that we have not increased it. We've not done a lot because the president recently signed into law and it's been gazetted for us to be able to now trade duty-free on the African continent. But I'm saying that to say that the reason why our trade is low is because we don't trade among ourselves. We trade a lot with other people. Now, on sustainable and ethical sourcing. Now we are talking about sustainability in trade finance. Sustainability in trade. Everything about sustainability in trade finance. Why? Because that's where the world is going. So it's not just enough to know trade finance. It's also important to what? Understand how to be environmentally sustainable. Environmental social governance, ESG, sustainability, and trade. Trade actually can contribute. Trade can reduce among the 17 sustainable development goals. Trade can reduce inequality. Trade can reduce hunger. Trade can reduce unemployment. Because the reason for inter-African trade is if we grow trade volume, businesses, we have to do more. To do more, what do they need? More staff, more production, and that will increase the number. Then trade finance and innovation specialists, fintech. Now, another very important area, by the way, fintech. COVID. How many of us were in trade during COVID? You were in trade during COVID. Okay, very few of us. Okay, oh my God. Very, very few. I'm sure John will remember the stress and the pressure and the challenge businesses faced during COVID. Because you can see now, you see paper everywhere now. You see now. I'm sure your filing room will be full of. It's a wonderful place. The reason is because we deal with paper, and it's not just Nigeria, everywhere in the world. We deal with paper. We deal with paper. Now, because of COVID, ICC set up a new rule. You might check this out. It's called Uniform Rule for Digital Trade Transaction, URDTT. Uniform Rule for Digital Trade Transaction. What is that supposed to do? To help us now to be able to transmit documents electronically. So now, some shipping line in Nigeria, if you're exporting, they will ask you, do you need an electronic bill of lading? Like CMA. Why are they asking? Because you don't have to send a physical document again. Even though in Nigeria, we are still doing physical document. CBN is thinking of that. There was a program recently, I was one of the speakers at the event, and CBN was organizing event for banks on digital trade transactions. Because CBN is already thinking of it also, because before the challenge is that, when we CBN begin to think of this, if this is a challenge, digital trade transaction. Digital trade transaction. What that means is that we won't have to deal with physical documents again, or at least significantly reduce the usage of physical documents. And that's happening already. That's happening, and it's happening seriously. That means documents will be transmitted electronically. And blockchain is powering this. Blockchain is powering this. Blockchain is not just powering this. Blockchain is also going to power the payment system, otherwise called Bitcoin. So that's why you can't fight cryptocurrency. You can't fight it. It's going to be payments instrument for trade going into the future. Innovation in trade. Now, leadership and strategic role. Executive board member in trade for so-called organization or venture capital and angel investor in trade-related